Blake, I have a confession to make.
Actually, it's time for me to confess some things.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who has messed up more than normal recently, and I'm here with my co-host who has never messed up at anything a day in his life, Toby Walters.
You messing up more than normal is a scary, way to start off the day.
Yes,
because you mess up a lot normally.
And normally I don't tell myself because I just think I'm the best, but I do have some things to actually confess to you. Are you ready?
Okay, and they are beyond the scope of the things I already know about?
Maybe. We'll see. One of them for sure.
All right.
And I think before I confess them, we should probably up the stakes, right?
Okay. Are we putting money on this?
I was thinking maybe bringing my boss to hear them.
Okay, let's bring in the man who I actually have given the power to fire you, Brian Deshawn.
All right, Brian.
Now, Blake, you and I talk a lot. So it's within the realm of possibility Toby doesn't know about these, but do I not know about them?
You know about the ones.
Are we going to have a one-on-one during this podcast?
Oh, we could never have a one-on-one.
That would be amazing. Toby. Just you guys do a one-on-one, put it out as a podcast episode. Yeah.
You only know, the ones that involve church gear. There's one that is like kind of church gear, but it didn't affect my job here. That's the one surprise I have.
Okay. And the show notes say car and woods. So that's a really fun way of me to start to get some context around what this might be.
Well, and we're going to leave the woods. What happens in the woods stays in the woods. I don't even think we're going to hit that one now. There's really two I want to hit. The first one is some cameras. So we go to take some Elf on the Shelf photos at Church Gear.
Oh, yes. I remember these because I was dressed as an elf. Wait. Does the public know that I'm the elf? Is this like
great.
Is this a secret?
Wait. Spoiler alert.
Because I take off my glasses. That's how Superman did it.
I know he just put glasses on and off so people didn't know who he was. So it's possible you just ruined this idea of who the elf is for everybody.
That's true. Kids everywhere.
Should we do a cut here?
Horrified.
And,
BD, he's never been the elf. I use AI for that.
Oh, okay.
We just take the photos to humor him.
I mean, taking my glasses off and putting a smile on my face makes me a completely different person.
Yes.
A smile on your face does make you a different person, Toby. So we had to take some photos here at the warehouse, and me and Toby hustled through them. He's such a good sport. And at the end of it, I go to get the card out of the camera to send the photos to Reese. And wouldn't you know, there's no card in this freaking camera.
Oh my gosh.
I was so rushing so fast, I never noticed that it kept blinking and saying, no card, no card.
Now, Blake, I don't know what should be more disappointing to you. The fact that you just had to admit something, or I'm not surprised there was no card in the camera when you were shooting pictures.
I'm not surprised either. I never use that camera, It's like my second time all year, and
I feel like, this hurts the sensitivity of all of our listeners because production guys now, they are deathly afraid of leaving the card out of the camera or anything that relates to that, but they double and triple and quadruple check that every time, so it never actually happens.
And Blake is also not a production guy, so he doesn't know how to do that.
Yes.
He just assumes that some production guy leaves the card in the camera.
He didn't even know how to check the first time.
Guys, I thought if I bought black pants and black shoes and a black shirt, I was a production guy, but that's not correct.
Yeah, so I love how we spent an hour around our warehouse putting me in all these nefarious positions, dressed as an elf, and then you finally say, okay, we have the content we need. I take off the elf costume, put back on my normal clothes, and then you say, Toby.
Toby.
Yeah.
Now, Blake, I also, curious how much extra money it cost us as a company to redo a photo shoot.
Well, you got my time. You got some of the guys here at Church Gear's time that helped.
My time?
Well, we don't pay any Toby anything.
Right.
Because
I don't work here.
He doesn't work here. That's what he's been saying a lot recently. So, yeah, it's probably a lot of money. Probably needs to come out of the 2025 budget.
Yep.
Trying to think, begin now, where do we need to cut back on Blake's marketing budget in 2025?
Just cut back on his salary.
We could
There's
do that
not
too.
a lot left of it to cut back on.
That would imply that there's anything in either of those totals of my salary or the budget. I do have one more to tell on myself.
Oh,
Okay.
no, there's more.
So this is the one y'all don't know. Remember the day that I bust into y'all's executive meeting thinking I was late for the director's meeting?
Yes.
Sure.
There was a reason I was in that rushed panic. I go outside my house that morning, I look to the right. I'm like running way ahead of schedule. I'm going to get here so early. I look down to the right. Don't see my car. No worries. It's on the street somewhere. I look down to the left. I don't see my car. I'm like, dude, where's my car? It's gone.
You know that's a movie, right?
Sure. I run to the back of my house. It's not there either. And I'm like, I'm sweating so fast. And I don't think it's because of the running and my fat rolls. I'm like, I am going to be late to the director's meeting and someone stole my car. So I'm like, don't panic. I call up a Lyft to get me to the meeting. And I'm just sitting there like, I guess I need to call and file a police report. Well, by the time that the Lyft is pulling up, I remember I left my car at Church Gear on Friday. My wife picked me up after we recorded the Lee episode. We went to a friend's house, and I just forgot my car all weekend. I lost it. I never came back and got it.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd been carjacked, and I was very relieved that I wasn't carjacked and had just been sitting at Church Gear all weekend.
So many things. Do you want to go first, Brian?
There are so many things to unpack here. Is the fact did you not need your car all weekend? Like you had no reason, no thought of where's my car. You didn't look outside for it. Like
out of sight, out of mind. Only drive my wife's car on the weekend.
Okay, so first of all, I want to verify. Do you understand there is a movie called?
Yes, Toby.
Okay.
I did this joke just for you, man. I was really trying to cater
I was
to
checking your awareness of pop culture references. Secondly, you're always constantly afraid of your car being broken into or your what do you have on the top of your car?
Oh, roof rack.
Yeah,
for my kayaks.
You're always afraid of your roof rack being stolen. I've never heard of a roof rack being stolen in
Neither have
history,
I.
but Blake is constantly afraid of that. So you leave your car in an unattended Church Gear parking lot the entire weekend. Was your roof rack there when you got back on Monday?
It was there, and it was covered in bird crap. My entire car was destroyed because I parked in the back under those trees. I'm still cleaning it off.
Now I have another question. Our meetings are on Tuesday, not on Monday.
right.
So it's not even the weekend. It's the weekend plus Monday?
I didn't drive in Monday.
This is Friday night, Friday afternoon, whenever your wife can pick you up, through the weekend, including a Monday. And Blake, what? I want to be careful how I say this. You have some neurotic behaviors.
Oh, that's
Some?
for sure.
And Toby is right. How much you worry about your personal property and your
Which is not very nice, by the way.
right. And your unhealthy fear of what people are going to do to you to destroy your property. The fact you did not know where your car was for 4 days, 3.5 days, and had no use for it, just like is beyond how I know you as a human being.
I have a scavenger's mindset. What can I say? I'm always trying to make sure everything's attended to.
Did you know the entire time where your next meal was coming from?
Yeah, my bottom left fat roll, Toby. I have a lot of those stored up. I'll give you the worst one. This is a fast one. I couldn't find my car keys recently. I'm telling you guys, I've been a mess for the past 2 months. I've had so much to do. I come home. I can't find my car keys. Again, I got to make it to a meeting here. I'm like, okay, just grab the extra set of keys, lock the back door, like where you can lock it and close the door. And I'm like, text your wife to turn on the security because now I don't have my security stick to turn on the security. Lord forbid, what would happen if security's not on? Well, I get home that day and I walk up to my front freaking door. And you know where my keys were? In the lock on the outside. And I wasn't murdered or my car wasn't stolen. I think God's trying to teach me he's got me and I need to stop worrying. But
yeah.
Can you believe I left my car keys in the front door all night?
And was it fine?
Yes.
Now, see, my wife does that like once a week.
For real?
So I'm just kind of used to it.
And you guys haven't been murdered either.
Nope.
I'm going to have to, I'll be honest, springing this on a podcast is interesting because I've got to think about this for a minute of what is going wrong with you that
so many things
that this one's a shocker to me.
That I left my car?
Yes. For 3 full days. And when you needed it, the lack of awareness of where you left your car or forgetting.
I'm locked in, guys. I'm locked in. If it's not
Yeah.
right in front of me, it don't matter.
And they have not legalized marijuana in Tennessee, so I don't
No.
think that's the problem.
No.
Dude, listen, I have a lot of thoughts on marijuana. I can't do that stuff. There's no way. Okay, so maybe we should have preambled a little bit of this at the beginning, but like this is our confessional episode, and those were some of my confessings.
Now, do Toby and I have to confess anything? Because I'm not prepared.
Yes, that is for Church Gear After Dark at the very end of
Okay.
this episode.
Okay.
There will be a link. It's $1,000 a month to subscribe, but it's worth it.
Great.
Okay.
So now we're going to do two things before we get to our confessionals. So here's kind of the setup for today. We're going to cover our 5 Truths and a Lie winner for the year
Clearly
is that between you two
and the guest.
or who the guest who had the best lies?
That's for
Like-
who guessed the lie best. So
Okay.
did the guest fool us or did we guess
Gotcha.
the guest
Okay.
lies?
Okay.
We'll reveal how many times I was fired on the podcast this year.
Not enough.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And then we will have a whole string of confessionals. So if you haven't listened to the confessionals at the end of this, the episodes throughout the year, you'll get to hear them all in one go. And there's some doozies. And after that plays, we'll have all of our takes and we'll rank and crown the top 3. So if you've already heard them all year, great. Shoot on over to us reacting at the end. If you haven't heard them, you're in for a treat. Does anyone want to take a guess as to who won the 5 Truths and a Lie all year? Did the guest fool me and Toby more often? Did I guess more often? Did Toby guess more often?
I know you didn't win.
Okay.
So it's really now between, do I think Toby is that insightful or do I think guests had really good lies?
And 2023, for context, Toby did win that by 1 over the guest.
Right.
Yes.
I'm going to guess Toby took a step back this year. And
Just
I
like the
think
rest of his
guests-
performance.
Yeah. And I think the guests won this year for the lies.
Okay.
I mean, I was there every episode, and I just feel like the guest fooled us more often. And I feel like the guest won, and then honestly, I think you beat me because I had a really poor showing this year. I don't know what I was doing. I mean, running a company or something, but
Toby, Brian runs the company. I saw Brian at a play this weekend, and on the way there, I was telling my parents, I was like, yeah, you'll meet my boss tonight. And they go, oh, Toby? And I said, no. I said, Toby owns Church Gear. Brian runs Church Gear. All right.
Sure.
Toby
I scoff
got
when Toby says, I've run church gear.
Yeah.
Toby came in at a whopping 7.5 on the year out of 52 chances.
how did I get 0.5?
You demanded on one of the episodes that your answer was worth 0.5.
That sounds like me. 7 out of 50 or so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's rough.
52. Then it came down to, there's 3 that I didn't even, I missed when I was prepping, and I didn't have to go back and check them because the margin of error is big enough between me and the guest.
Yeah.
The guest had 21. I had 15.5. So the guest beat us, guys.
Okay. You realize that doesn't add up to anywhere near 52.
3 plus
Do you have
21 plus.
another confession to make?
I mean,
That's like 43.
look, Toby, I don't make the rules. I'm just the podcast producer.
I think you literally make the rules.
I kind of think that you should fire me over it. Speaking of which,
I should.
how many times do you think I was fired in 2024?
More than the number of lies you just counted.
Ooh. Then all of the lies or just my lies that I got right?
No, of the 52 weeks of the podcast, your total lies were like 43. So we're missing some. So I'm going to guess it was more than 40, whatever that number is.
All right.
I was so tired this year based on, see, words don't even come. I'm so tired of filling in the gaps that you create, Blake. So I forgot to fire you nearly enough times. So I think it was something like 7.
The ironic thing is marketing people are supposed to make gaps. That's what gives you your brain worms.
Well, one's chewing away at my brain right now. That's for sure.
I was only fired 11 times this year.
Golly, I need to step it up. It's
Yeah.
not even one a month.
That's pretty bad, Toby. So, all right.
Now,
So,
Blake, I'm surprised you have not pounced, although you do bad math. So maybe you have not. Toby was at 7.5.
yep.
You were at 15.
15.5. Yep.
Oh, 15.5.
Yep.
Did I demand that you get half a point?
Well,
So-
I got the point. You wrestled half of it away from me.
So you are over twice as good at Toby at something.
At spotting liars.
Yet you still work for me over 4 years later.
What are you saying, Toby? That you're a liar? How dare you? Don't disparage the brand. Okay. Well, that's our confessions. From me, that's the 5 Truths and a Lie. That's the firings. you guys want to set up this episode? I'm almost scared to turn it over to these confessionals. They're so bad.
Yeah. So we have, do you know how many confessions there are?
Oh, I don't. I know it runs for 16 minutes.
Yeah. Let's say there's roughly 15 confessions.
Do you trust me to count them after I couldn't even count them?
No.
So they all use a voice changer, so they're completely anonymous. I can tell there's one that's got to be by a female, because like you just hear the inflections are totally different. But there's some wicked potty humor in there. And there's just some fun ones. The overall take is tech production people have not matured beyond 13 years old.
Nor have any of us.
Just
We
in
all
general.
love
Yes, present
a
company
fart
included.
joke.
Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my takeaways is the things that happen that are of the like 13-year-old boy variety, not even on purpose.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
I also know now why they wear black, so they can get away with stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they hide. And then we'll get to this as we review some of them. But why would you ever want to tick off a production guy?
Oh, it's a dangerous
Ever.
proposition.
They are in control of everything that happens, and you will hear some of this in these confessions.
It shows there's a lot of hubris that, people have to pay for in this.
Yep.
And I will say, if you like the lessons from our guests on typical episodes and you're not a fan of anything squeamish or risque, this might truly be an episode just to skip. Don't worry about it. You've already listened this far. You boosted our numbers. Toby and Brian, when I send them their report for this episode, they won't know the difference. So feel free to skip it if it's a little too risque for you. All right, here are some tech confessionals. We'll be back after this with our takes and crowning a winner.
Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, we're doing baptisms, set up for a great Sunday, and we wanted to warm up the baptismal. So we put an immersion heater in there, and our facilities guy let our admin person know that when it gets up to temperature, just pull the immersion heater out, we'll unplug it, pull it out, put the lid on, we're good to go. So she did just that, and then later that day, the facilities guy called his wife, who also works at the church, to go check on something on the heater. So she goes in there, realizes it's unplugged, so she plugs it in, trying to be helpful, and about 5 minutes later, I come around the corner, and the immersion heater is in flames, melting its way through the side of the baptismal.
One time, I was deep in the weeds, working on some EQ and some compression, only to realize that both the EQ and compression were completely bypassed, and nothing that I was doing was making a difference on the sound at all. I could swear that I could hear so many things happening, so many things changing, and I wasn't doing anything.
Our Christmas budget this past year, I ended up having a little left over, and before I said anything, I went ahead and just bought a Bonavita coffee brewer out of our Christmas budget for the green room. And everybody thanked me, so I figured it was great. Nobody knew where the money came from, but we still came in under budget, and now we have a Bonavita. So you're welcome, team.
I had a friend that was visiting me out of town from church. I was mixing front of house. He said that I needed to try these new caffeine pouches. They were going to give me a cool boost, just regular caffeine thing. I only had one coffee. I normally have two. But so I put it in, service is going great. Like, man, this caffeine pouch is I'm feeling awesome from this thing. He comes up to me after service, he's like, that was actually a nicotine pouch that I gave you during the service. And I had 2 or 3 people come up to me after the service and say that was the best mix I've heard in a long time. So the next weekend I tried the same thing. And then the next weekend I did the same thing. And then the next weekend I did the same thing. So needless to say, I'm putting nicotine pouches on the church card. One time, I ordered an SEV7 off of Amazon, and as I was getting out of the box, I unzipped the pouch and dropped it straight on the floor. And then I returned it to Amazon and said it was already broken when I received it.
Friend and I, we used to contract for this church that we would do their youth camp a couple times a year. And honestly, last night, everybody's getting ministered to. It's great, but this church did not know how to end a service. And so they would be going until 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m. And at some point, by like the second or third night of this, we learned that we should bring a little flask. And I'm not gonna lie, the more we did this, we were like, this seems like a great time to step out back, do some tequila shots, and come back. And those nights became significantly more enjoyable, I'm gonna be honest. And we did them for a few more years.
Probably when I was about 16 years old, there was something that I really wanted to happen in our weekend service that our pastor just wouldn't budge on. But what I knew was that the feedback forms and the emails that came in, those would often be brought up. So what I did was I created an email address of marknaismith@gmail.com. And I'm sure I probably own that. I don't know where the credentials are at, but I basically sent in an email to, lead pastor's office saying, hey, I really hate having the choir in the middle of the back, and you think we could change that? And that still lives with me, I still remember that. I don't know, but you know what never happened again? Was the choir was never in the middle of the room, in the back. So they were off camera and out of sight. So, little win at, my 16-year-old production self.
So recently I started working at the church, and my first Easter this year, I slept in. That was the first time I've slept in, and it was probably the worst Sunday ever. I woke up an hour late to my boss calling me. Not a good Sunday. We're doing live streaming, and we had a volunteer that somehow got on the production network and decided it was a great time during service to start uploading their family pictures from their most recent vacation. So, Church Production Network uploading pictures, however many hundred of pictures, totally took down the live stream. So, if you have a Church Production Network, keep it closed off and don't upload your pictures after family vacation.
My Church Tech Confessional is I don't reprogram the lights every week. I stand by the belief that I don't think the volunteers or the attendees or anybody except me most of the time probably ever actually notices that they're in downstage wide this week and last week. So there's plenty of Sundays where I'm going to be honest, they've stayed in downstage wide for a couple of weeks.
We recently started Pro Presenter, and I had my team to type up all of the scriptures, all of the lyrics, which is about 5 hours of work of typing, instead of realizing that they could copy and paste into Pro Presenter and take about 20 minutes.
The first time I started running sound, I didn't know a thing about it. And so I decided to go back and clean some stuff up. And while I was cleaning up the audio rack, I accidentally unplugged the subwoofers and didn't notice for 3 months. One week I was running monitors, and our band always wanted to have the senior pastor in their ears. And there was 1 week that the senior pastor came in and said that his stomach wasn't feeling great, so he was just going to see what he was going to do, and got through first service, and then in between services went into the bathroom and had explosive diarrhea, at which point I realized I did not mute his mic that was still on him, and so the entire band heard it during the front set of worship. So my confession of mixing at church. Yeah, there's one time, we've had some issues with senior pastor walking off stage and the mic doesn't get turned down sometimes, especially during worship. Don't really want that being heard during the broadcast. So one service, band was on stage, starting to ramp up. Senior pastor walks off stage. I was just focused on bringing down his mic, and brought down his mic, but forgot to bring up some of the other mics. Vocals were great. Band, from where I was at, sounded good, but broadcast got nothing. The outside got nothing. Inside, just heard stage level and no actual guitars. So it was amazing. One time my executive pastor upper decked the green room bathroom right before services. One time I forgot to take off an IEM pack before going to the bathroom, dropped in the toilet, and had diarrhea all over it. I then threw it away and lied to the worship pastor about where it actually went. One time, I lied to my senior pastor about channel count on a console so we could get out of hosting a conference. I was producing one of our services, and our video booth, where we would have the director and everything, was next to our recording studio. And for whatever reason, we captured our Saturday night service, and it would broadcast on Sunday mornings. And we had this pastor, who will go unnamed, who I would call, he would get really intense from the stage, and he'd be talking. And he would do this move on stage that I call the power squat, which he would get down low. I mean, like, beautiful squat form all the way down. And what would happen is I would have to prep our camera guys. Okay, get ready here. I can see it. Here comes the power squat. And so, unfortunately, the same audio that was being recorded from stage was being recorded in the booth next door, and the doors were open. And so the team got a hoot out of the power squat moments. And you can just hear me in the background, ever so slightly, on that Sunday morning recording at one of our campuses saying, okay, here comes the power squat. And the whole church congregation heard, here comes the power squat. Sure enough, he would get down low, get really intense, really quiet, and then come out of it and keep preaching. But I was calling out power squats for the video recording at our campuses. So I was on a tour in 2015, and we were having some trouble with a current console, and we decided to call the rental company because we had to get a new console because our front of house guy was having issues. So they brought us a new console. We got it all set up. Everything was working. After sound check, I walked up to take a photo with everyone at front of house, had my coffee in my left hand, tipped it over while I was taking a picture, and I dropped my coffee on a bank of 8 faders. And I burnt out 8 faders on the console for the rest of the tour. We did an event not that long ago, and we're using ProPresenter. We go to play, the intro video works great. Everything's cool. We're chugging along, no issues, no technical problems. And then it comes to the most important video of the night. It's the offering video, the appeal. And then all of a sudden, just before they go to click it, ProPresenter expires. And we didn't play the video, and people were not happy about it. One time, I lit 3 LED tape drivers on fire by not realizing it was 208 power. I set off a fire alarm and made fire sprinklers go off. I blamed it on cold weather.
When I was in college, I was volunteering for the church that I do work at now and love so very much. I would go to church, or I would go to college during the week, including Fridays, and then I would sometimes come home to volunteer video direct. It happened to be that on Friday night, I had a little bit too much fun. And then I had to get up the next morning and go to church to volunteer video direct. And I may have not been feeling my absolute best and may have had to excuse myself between tech rehearsal and multiple verse services to go puke in the bathroom.
When I was in 10th grade, we had to run lyrics from the baptistry because we hung a projector in the center of the room. And I was supposed to be advancing the slides, but I had a crush on a girl, and I was trying to impress her, showing her that I knew how to run the slides. And I kissed her in the baptistry, and I missed the slides. They sent somebody up to check on me, and I got busted. But no one knows. One time, me and the worship pastor were kind of getting a little bit of a tuffle. So during rehearsal, I changed the delay only on his in-ear for the click for the click track and slowly started delaying it. So he was getting off time from everyone else, but he had no idea what was going on. So after a long night, 24-hour day doing a students conference, we're loading up truss onto our second floor. I'm driving a forklift, and as I'm pulling the forks up to the second floor to drop off the truss, I suddenly hit the building. The truss fall on top of me in the forklift, and crew guys were 20 feet away from me. Nobody got hurt, but one of the dumbest moments. Once upon a time, I played drums in a pop punk band. We did a significant amount of touring around the country. Every now and then, you found yourself on the road with some like-minded individuals. Like-minded in the sense that maybe they had enough vengeful hate in their hearts to respond in kind when certain tour pranks occurred. They had already gotten us pretty good a time or two, so we got a little creative, and they were like a modern metal fused with 80s hair vibe band, and they came out with this big intro with these smoke machines standing right behind, in front of them, just being enveloped in the haze and smoke. And we figured, I wonder what would happen if someone urinated in that tank. And I will tell you, the results did not disappoint. It was vile. The scent immediately started absolutely filling the room. It smelled like burning, like it might as well have been burning human flesh at that point. It was, I mean, I know these machines probably shouldn't be run without proper fluid, and it was a diluted solution, but at the same time, it operated almost perfectly, other than the fact that it smelled so incredibly bad. Of course, they didn't know what was happening. They didn't know they were basking in it, that it was completely consuming their pores with my urine. Well, they knew something was up. The drummer started looking down at himself, kind of trying to figure out maybe if he'd wet himself accidentally. Like it was just like, what is happening? And no one quite knew there. But I'm standing about 3 rows back from the stage, just laughing hysterically at these guys. So they know something's up, and their singer decided he was going to like full-on Goldberg me and like spear me off the stage, and in retribution. It got a little out of hand, but in the best way. We're all still friends, and the equipment still works, so no harm, no foul. But it was foul, so maybe no harm, a little bit of foul.
Wow.
I feel like if I was a production guy, this would give me a lot of ideas, which I'm a little afraid of. We're putting ideas into the heads of powerful people around churches.
I hadn't thought of that. Did we just knowingly and willingly serve up a menu of things?
Church Gear's not liable for anything in this episode or recreated in the church.
I hadn't thought of that.
Ironically, the worst thing done was by a pastor and upper decking the green room toilet. So the production guy is telling on whichever pastor did it. And that totally feels like a 13-year-old boy's version of dusting your sandals off as like, I'm done with you, church. You know, where Jesus, wipes the dust off his sandals as he's leaving. And so I feel like that's the pastor reverting back to his 13-year-old boy. And if anybody, we're not going to explain upper decking on this, but be careful with the Google searches.
Yes, I would make sure you're not using your church-owned device to search upper decking.
Yes. One of the most, I don't know if meta is the right way to put it, but so the guy that adjusting the compression and EQ and hearing the difference and then realizing it's not even engaged, I'm like, oh no. that cut deep on me, because I feel like I've had those moments before where I'm adjusting things and in my brain, I'm like, this is sounding great. I don't know if it's making any difference. And then if you relate it back to musicians who say, can you turn up such and such in my ears or my monitors, whatever it is. And then the techs that are smart enough to just reach for the knob and say, does that sound better? And just the psychological effect of thinking it sounds better, there was no change.
I'm going to start calling tech people placebo pushers.
They really are. My experience in the music business, I went to lots of shows, and especially during like sound checks, things like that, to watch this guy who did stage monitors, like in-ears, all that kind of stuff. You would watch the like singers, give up, thumbs up or thumbs down, or just up a little bit, whatever the case might be. And I would laugh all the time going, they're not moving anything.
Yeah.
Because you would see the, like the drummer might be there just up, and then stop. And I'm like, that dude on the side did not adjust it that much. So yeah, I could totally buy into that one, just because in that sense, I know how tech guys are. Like, there's no perfect thing for how people hear stuff. It's just what they want to hear, and it's all placebo.
And I think that may be the reason why we sell. I love when tech people ask me, what's our best seller? And to see their eyes react when I say blue Avioms. I love blue Avioms because as a musician, it gives me the power to just change my own mix.
And I will say, just before this episode, we were messing with the audio, and Blake has his in-ears in so he can hear all of us. Mm-hmm. And he goes, it doesn't sound the same as it has before. And so Toby went down, touched a knob, and Blake goes, sounds much better. I don't know if Toby moved anything or not.
No, I didn't change a thing.
I really don't know.
You lied to me, Toby. This is your confessional.
But you put into his head, you said, I think it's just your in-ears. Like you set up, hey, this is what it is. So now it puts a psychological prompt in his brain.
Yep.
And then whatever you did or didn't do, now he believes, it obviously sounds much better.
Yeah.
Guys, if a nicotine pouch improves your performance at work at a church and you're allowed to put it in the company budget, I just need to let you know, Pappy 15-year at $3,000 a bottle really improves my performance. So you will see that in my 2025 budget.
Brian, have you ever worked at a church that had like an alcohol policy, like staff does not drink?
Yeah, like
you're really putting him on the spot here.
During the church day, yes.
Okay, there you go. I'm just thinking, I know there's a lot of churches out there, especially like the more traditional conservative you get, they have like drinking policies where they say there is 0 alcohol for our church staff. But I'm wondering, are there any policies out there that say there is no nicotine?
I don't know.
I think some
staff?
just got created.
Yeah.
Also, if your subwoofer was unplugged, I'm just like, bullet pointing down here. If your subwoofer was unplugged for 3 months, you really don't think you would notice that? Like the guy who didn't notice his subwoofer unplugged for 3 months.
Now, that to me was a bad confessional. Because to me, it wasn't you're confessing that your subwoofers are unplugged. You're confessing that your ears suck. That you don't know if a sub is missing or not. Because I think the most common person knows if a sub is missing or not.
Brian is having his one-on-one with this guy right here. That guy's just having to hear it.
Now, there's a specific strategy that a lot of great audio guys will follow, and it's have the subs off at the beginning of service. So service hits, and you don't feel it yet. And so it's like, how once you get over, for me, I think it was like once I was 14, I was no longer jumping into the pool. I was wading into the shallow end very slowly. So they'll leave the subs off, and then they'll slowly bring them up so that people don't complain that it's too loud. And so maybe he did that one day and just forgot to bring them back.
Now, does that also mean that subs are like a nicotine pouch for the audience?
Oh, I like that.
Like we're going to give you...
Yep.
Also, if somebody was sub guy, listen, I'm right there with you. I forgot the card in the camera. It's a pain one. If someone was calling out power squats at church, I think that would have a lot more people paying attention.
Yeah.
Like the story where it was just like power squat on the pastor's power squat.
Yeah.
Would that make you pay attention more?
It wouldn't make me pay attention less.
I also, if I remember right, he said that it wasn't in the feed in the broadcast campus. It was in the feed of where the video was piping to, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And to me, for anybody who goes to a campus that is a video feed, sometimes you hear and see things that the broadcast campus doesn't see, so you kind of get used to it. So I just wonder if people are like,
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's a fun little additive in the
yes.
in the live stream.
Personally, I loved it. Okay, so Toby, did you slide your own confessional into this episode, because the one that was talking about kissing their crush, like I think you secretly included your own in here.
Oh yeah, he was. Didn't he say he was like 16 years old and he's
Yes.
supposed to be
Yes.
working on the projector? I just love that one. I thought, yes, that totally could have been me.
There is one thing that happened at the church I grew up at that was heinous enough that it will not be repeated, but I will tell you, there's a lot. This was not done by me. This is the pastor's son. Actually, I probably shouldn't even say that far, but like
Of course, it was the pastor's son.
things happen at church because there's so much space that
Yeah.
people aren't really filling unless it's, a Sunday or a Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's
So,
true.
Toby, I think next year you ought to slide your own confessional into
That would be good. We should all sneak one in and see if we can
And
pick out whose is
see,
whose.
like this time next year. We're trying
Yes.
to guess whose confessional it was.
that would be good. Or if we had willing participants, if Todd Elliott said, "I'll give a
that's even
confession,"
better.
but not say who it is, that'd be really fun for the audience to
That
try
would
and
be so much fun.
pair the confession with the person. See, this is how branding is done, Blake.
Right.
You're
I'm s-
watching it before your eyes. Okay, so because we're in budgeting season right now, I love the coffee maker. So basically, he had a surplus, and I know what that is
Yes.
now after watching The Office.
Not after being in budget season with Brian and our accounting guy and our finance guy. It's from watching The Office.
So I love it how he had a surplus, and he snuck a coffee maker in there. And now, being a coffee guy myself, I feel like that is absolutely a necessary purchase for a production department. But to kind of not tell the executive pastor and then just, still coming in on budget. It's like, I got the thing and I'm the hero for my team, and I still came in under budget and I'm the hero for the XP. So is that guy not brilliant?
I think he's brilliant. And when I heard that one, my first inkling was to come in the Church Gear kitchen
Mm-hmm.
and see if any of our techs have bought any, because they are coffee snobs.
Yes.
And have they bought anything that's sitting in our Church Gear kitchen that slid in under budget, or like, hey, we just bought coffees for the tech team. And it was like, $100. And really what they bought was some brewer to
Mhm.
bring in the Church Gear kitchen. So after we're done here, I'm going to go check the Church Gear kitchen and
Yeah.
see if there's any paraphernalia in there.
Well, there's definitely paraphernalia for pour overs, but I never get pour overs.
Right.
And I know the people that can do pour overs here at Church Gear, and they seem very well caffeinated.
I
Well,
mean,
I am not.
That's the
invited to that
nicotine
party.
pouches that they're using. But also, I think you only get pour overs at Church Gear if you are loved by the people doing them. So I think that, might tell you something, Toby.
See, and I also wonder, because I approve the expense reports here at Church Gear, and Edwin, our tech director for our own, tech shop here at Church Gear, he has a quote unquote coffee cart. He claims he brought that with him from California.
Mhm.
Oh,
But there are a lot of things on Edwin's expense report. I have no clue what it is because
Yeah.
I'm not technical. I don't know what he's buying. So is it possible he slipped in
Sure.
some coffee things for this coffee cart for Church Gear, and it's just masked in an Amazon order of things he's used to repair stuff with, or whatever the case might be.
you just gave we gave a lot of people ideas on how they could be, nefarious production people in this episode. You just gave me an idea of how I'm slicing my budget next year. Guys,
You're not as smart as Edwin, though. That's the problem.
but I'm friends with Edwin. How do you burn a baptismal? I'm still trying to work that one out. It's made of water.
The baptismal's not made of water. You put water in it.
Yeah, but how can you burn something that holds water?
Blake, it's not like they. Seriously, sometimes
Yeah.
it's not like water is in a baptism 24/7, 365.
Oh, well, that's stupid.
You know how disgusting that would be?
Hmm.
Do you want to be the person that got baptized in December knowing that water has had humans in it for 11 months before?
Yeah, I just would be happy to be baptized. They keep rejecting my application
This
at
is
fellowship.
the guy who spends his weekends in a hot tub in his parents' driveway.
Well, that's
So-
true too.
I bet you that water hasn't been changed recently.
Oh, dude, real talk. My dad obsesses over that water.
Nah.
Actually, he should do the baptismal.
Is
water.
it water or is it Natty Light?
Oh well, Toby, listen. Things that happen in the 306 don't have to be said out loud. That's all my takes, guys. Do you guys have any other takes before we move to our top threes?
Oh, there's so many good ones.
Well, don't let them lay it on the floor, Toby.
So the tech that lied to his pastor that they didn't have enough channel count to get out of an event. I'm like, bro, props to you, but also you're going straight to hell.
I thought that one was really funny.
Yeah.
I no longer have enough channel counts to do half my job, just so y'all know.
And of course, the pastor has no idea.
No.
He's like, oh, man, okay. and move on to the next idea.
Yes.
And now I'm wondering how many times have you guys told me, oh, yeah, we don't have the capability to pull that off.
I'm going to tell you that right after this episode.
Blake, I just assume you can't pull anything off because I never see any results from your job.
I'm too busy looking for my car, Toby.
See, Toby, with you, when you have something you want to do, I just say, well, did you do that in numbers? And when you say yes, I said, yeah, it doesn't work that way in Excel, so it can't be done.
Look, if
Now,
Tim Cook gives me numbers on my MacBook, I assume that that's the best program to do my numbers in.
now, see, Toby, I'm going to use that as a segue into the next one.
Uh-oh.
Of the tech who bought something from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It got there, he dropped it and broke it, and then returned it to Amazon because
Yep.
it was broken.
Yep.
You don't use numbers because you think Tim Cook's a genius and could give you something.
Yes.
You use numbers because it's free.
Okay.
On
Sure.
you don't have to pay anything more
Yeah.
to get something else, the better program. When I heard that, I instantly thought, I bet Toby's done that before. I bet Toby's bought something from Amazon, broke it, and returned it to get his money back, so he's not out any money.
No, but if we're doing confessional episodes, what I used to do when I was much younger is I'd buy things from Guitar Center, use them for 29 days, and then return them
How often did you pull that one off?
a handful of times. I mean, they start to catch on pretty quick.
That's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
how long that would take them.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that our customers are not doing that to us
Ooh, the cosmic karma's coming back for you,
know.
Tobes.
or dropping our gear and then sending it back and saying UPS broke this. I guarantee you that's happened. I mean, we've shipped
Yes.
20,000 packages in the last handful of years.
Well, and like we actually put good packaging on it. Every time I get something from Amazon, I'm like, how on earth does this pass as packaging? We are basically packing stuff to send it to space compared to what Amazon does for the stuff they send me.
And I will say that UPS, just like healthcare companies, deny.
Yep.
Taking
And
some shots.
I mean, the difference with Amazon is they have their own drivers delivering. Like UPS, if you see the way that packages, like just the progress, it's fascinating.
It really is amazing that anything shows up at your house
Yes.
in one piece.
I took a shipment to, and I'll go to FedEx because this happened at FedEx. I took it to a FedEx drop-off location. The guy picked up the box and he said, "Is this packed well enough that I can throw it across the room?" Like, dude, do you want to change your question at all? And I'm thinking, how do you package a, like, let's say a flat screen TV that you can throw it across the room?
Hey, at least he was confessing their policies.
Yeah.
You know, good on him.
That was crazy.
Any other takes, guys?
Yeah. One was the tech who said he used a fake email address to send to the pastor about moving the choir from the center of stage. That one made me laugh only mostly because when I worked at my church, I had a friend I worked with at church who created a fake social media account who every Sunday would post about things that happened at our church and sometimes complained about things that happened at our church that he didn't want to have happen at our church.
Yes.
And this went on for a couple years and no one knew.
That was one of my top three. My third is the guy who used the email to compliment himself. I think that was hilarious and genius.
The other one is, like I always have this belief that if you drive around your town and just look for where road signs are, like cow crossing, deer crossing, the only reason that sign exists is because somebody's hit a cow or a deer in that spot. So that's how rules get created. So the one tech I heard is like, there are a lot of corporations and organizations around America that say, hey, you cannot use your own device at work. Like you have to have a company approved device. You have to be on our network and it blocks all kinds of stuff. So the guy who was downloading pictures during the
It was
church
family
service
vacation.
that it shut down
Yep.
their live stream. That's the guy who ruins it for the rest of us.
Mm. Hey, I just heard that I'm getting a company phone, and that is amazing. So thank you, Brian.
Blake,
No.
it would get taken away from you so fast.
Well, I'd also
I don't
probably
know that you
lose
want
it
that.
somewhere.
You drop it in the toilet.
Well, there was a lot of toilet action in this.
Yeah. And I know the tech who dropped the IEM pack in the toilet. I remember that one. And we've texted about it multiple times. But knowing him, I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
Well, that was our best social post of the year of the confessionals. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he did a great
Now,
job.
Toby, one hit me that I want to ask you about because you've been a worship leader.
Uh-huh.
So the guy who talked about, I don't know if it was like one Sunday morning, but he and the worship pastor kind of got into it. We're having some not so happy moments, and he delayed his click so that he got off time while he was leading worship.
Yep.
Do you know if that's ever happened to you? Did you irritate a production guy at some point in time in your life, and they just
I
tried
think
to mess
because I
with you on
started
stage?
as a production guy and then went to worship that I knew how important it was to befriend the production guy. But I remember one of our own techs, and I won't say his name, but he said he was on tour and the lead singer of the band was such a jerk that he decided to put a crazy delay in his vocal track in the monitors. And you just can't sing that way.
Right.
Like, it's terrifying.
And it makes me wonder too, like, I'm not going to suggest that any worship leaders across America are divas. That I don't know any of them.
You don't need to suggest it. We all know it.
Right. And so it's just a reminder to me that it's like I said earlier, just listening to some of these is how much control tech people are in charge of and can make you're working really hard to be perfect on stage, but a tech guy could disrupt that.
Yep.
In a moment's notice. And then, of course, there's no tech guys who are divas.
No.
So
This kind of makes me think, at the end, how we always ask people to share the episode. Did we just create an episode for every tech to share with all the people in their lives to be like, hey, bud, this is your warning shot. Be nice if you don't want this stuff to happen.
Right.
I could be your best friend or your worst enemy.
And I wonder why. I mean, we've gotten so many stories of people like mixing at presidential rallies and Secret Service is standing right there.
Oh,
maybe
that
that's
sounds
why.
scary. Yes. Well, Brian, like literally
Yeah.
Secret Service will, on some of these stories, would come in and be like, you have to stay at this booth, and they couldn't even leave.
Right.
Like they're
Could not
pooping in
go
a
to the
bucket.
rest- Yeah.
right.
Well, or they could pee in the haze machine. Let's talk about that.
Oh my goodness.
Should we just go to our top threes? Because that's one of mine. That's
Okay.
one of mine. Is that ranking in yours, Toby?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It was one of mine as well.
Oh gosh, I have a feeling this one's gonna win.
Yeah.
It's the most heinous of all of them, right?
Okay.
Of all
Did
of
you
them,
say heinous?
heinous. Yeah.
Okay.
Look, Toby,
The 13-year-old boy in me is coming out again.
this is gosh. I don't know if I can say this.
Say it. We can always cut it.
You hearing that, but I didn't say it, is the same as when I sent Brian the codes for 12 Days of Christmas.
Mhm.
And I'm just you can autocomplete this in your mind. I'm not gonna autocomplete it. When I sent him analog, console, whatever off,
Yeah.
I kept waiting for him to be like, you cannot use that code.
Oh, yeah.
And we all saw it, but we still used it,
Mhm.
and no one said anything.
Yeah.
So, analog, console.
Just write it out in all capital letters and see what your eyes see.
Because if you bold that and you read something first, I just think that,
Mhm. Yeah.
can make people see things that are not there.
Yep. Marketers have a lot of power too. They're writing these things that millions of people see day in and day
Man.
out. They know what they're doing.
He just said, I know what I'm doing, Brian, because
They.
I'm a marketer.
They.
He said they, you're not they, Blake.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's. I don't know the best way to do this. Like to just go down our top three. Like, should we just do our each do our three, each do our two, each do our one?
Yep.
Okay. What was everybody's number three on your top of the year? We're gonna crown a winner, a 2024 Tech Confessional winner.
My number 3 was dropping the IEM pack in the toilet and then having diarrhea all over it. I'm just like, no respect for the IEM pack.
Okay.
Well, also for that one, it's I don't know if that was in my top 3, but to me, the confession wasn't you dropped it. The confession was you lied about
That's
what
true.
happened to it.
Yeah.
To me, the best story is, dude, I dropped it in the toilet. Like,
He should have just owned it.
yes, like,
Yeah.
because that's a better story than trying to come up with some lie of like, I don't know what his lie was, but that to me was a confession actually lying about it.
He should have been like, I got some to tell you.
Yeah.
I would say my number 3 is the tech guy delaying the click
Mhm.
because I just think that's funny.
Well,
And
we don't-
and the thing is about that, like all morning long, as he knows he's delayed it, he's just sitting there going,
I'm too petty to be a tech guy is what I'm hearing, because I would not be a good one. I would do that stuff all the time. Number 3 for me was the guy who did the email to compliment himself. I just love the
Yes, that's
strategy
pretty
in
good.
that. All right, we don't have any crossover. I think it'll be easy to figure out who wins by the crossover. My number 2 was the explosive diarrhea from the preacher's mic, not from the IEM pack. I mean, explosive diarrhea from the preacher going to everybody. Like, I've made a lot of mistakes at church gear, but I've never, to my knowledge, deeply embarrassed either of you in a bad way. Like, that's pretty bad.
I'm just so used to those stories of pastors' mics being left on when they go to the restroom that I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, that one is just funny because it's funny. But that one wasn't in my top 3 because I bet that happens every Sunday. Somewhere across America,
Yep.
the pastor's mic is left on in some capacity. It may not be for everybody to hear. It might be in ear monitors. It might just be in the booth. Who knows where it is? But it's just the circumstances around that of having explosive diarrhea.
Listen, if these guys are right and this is happening all the time and you've got a different angle to this story, send it to Blake@churchgear.com because we need to have that in the confessionals in 2025.
My number 2 was the tech lying about the channel count to get out of an event. I was like, that is so nefarious and brilliant at the same time.
Yeah. My number 2 I would put is the fake email address.
Oh,
get
so
the
we both?
pastor,
Okay, so that's our
like-
first crossover.
Okay.
Mostly because it reminds me of my friend, and my friend would show me what he would post, and I would just like, dude, you can't say that. He goes, I'm not saying it.
Bob is saying
All
it.
right.
I will not
It was very
neither
funny.
confirm nor deny that there are some production people who also have set up that similar scenario for themselves.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, well, it seems like we did have some crossover on our number 2. I will also point out my number 2 was someone taking a number 2. All right, number 1. My number 1 was peeing in the haze machine.
That was my number 1.
Totally my number 1.
Yep.
That winner was easy. Should that person like get a felony or go
Yes.
to prison?
Yes. 100%.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to tell a very, very quick story here because this was a tour prank, if I remember right. It was on tour, doing production
Yes.
on tour, which is fine. And again, I like working in the music business. I've seen and heard about so many like just ridiculous tour pranks. My favorite one I ever heard is from a long time ago. I will tell this very quickly. So Chris Tomlin and his band were at a festival one summer, and they had been following, if anybody remembers Delirious, Martin Smith from Delirious, big worship band. Lots of songs we sing now come from them. They always, back in the early 2000s, they wore these like very bright suits on stage. So one festival, Chris and his band went to their dressing room, took all their suits and wore them on stage before Delirious went on stage. Okay, so they wore their costumes basically while the Delirious guys were standing off stage, so mad at them for wearing their outfits. So that's not the prank. So all summer long, Chris and his band like would film what they were doing, like had video camera stuff like that. So at the end of the summer, they all gather together and watch their summer of their video. And they're watching along, and all of a sudden the video stops, and on comes Martin Smith and Stu G on the video in their dressing room from like 3 months before. And they said, you don't want to watch this payback. They took all their band's toothbrushes, cleaned all the toilets in the dressing room, and then put them back in their cases. So Chris and his band were using toothbrushes that had been cleaned toilets for like 2 months straight.
That's worse than the pee in the haze. That's worse.
Horrible.
Pee on my face is not as bad as pee in my mouth. That's worse.
Well, when you pee in the haze machine, there's pee in your
It's
mouth,
like, that's
it's
a
in your
mist.
eyes, it's
Like,
in your
that's
ears.
a mist.
Pee on my face and mouth once is not as bad as pee in my mouth a whole 2
I just
months.
to me, that was just brilliant. Okay.
There's
Brilliant.
some, Toby, I'm locking my toothbrush up at Philo.
Master
I'm not
criminal.
letting
There are-
Brian into my room.
There are some messing with somebody's clique can mess up a church service for everybody.
Oh,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
see.
Like-
yeah.
Anyway, there are things that have happened like these confessions, but this one to me was just, it's going to only impact the people. Now, he said like the mist smelled up the whatever the case is, but like, I just thought like that's a good practical joke and a great confession to make about I peed in a haze machine.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, it's terrible, but also we thank you for giving us the best 2024 Church Tech Confessional of the year. And if you were hearing this and you're like, man, I want to be involved in this next year, email it to Blake@churchgear.com because we need some more next year.
And first of all, do something nefarious.
Hang on.
If you don't already have a confession, then do something terrible and then you can confess it.
I don't know. Now I feel some conviction, Toby. Us just like showing funny stuff is not as bad as us making bad things happen. You guys got any closing thoughts on the Church Tech Confessional episode?
I just love church techs. They're like the secret hilarious humans of society.
And I love that we get to show that humor off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because like on stage, where the lights are, you work so hard and mistakes happen. Like people fall, they trip, whatever the case might be. And all that stuff's fine. But you work really hard to have that be a presentation that everybody can see. But when you get backstage, side stage, off stage, front of house, where there's no lights on you, the number of things that can go wrong that you either have to cover up or just make a boneheaded mistake or make a purposeful decision to do something wrong, it's funny. It's just funny.
So for all those just funnies you have, you need to send them in. I think that's it for this year, guys. I think we
Great.
made it.
Blake, I have one final confession.
Am I fired?
Yes, you're fired.
Dang it. All right, send those to, should I give your personal email out here? Send the confessions instead of mine.
Toby@churchgear.com.
There you go.
Oh no, you're revealing a big secret.
And I will also say this, is if you've been nervous about sharing a confessional because you think somebody might know who you are, Blake has done a great job of manipulating the voices that basically sound like all the same person, the entire time. So you can trust us that we're not going to sell you out.
Yeah.
If you're in a job that you like, that you've done something really stupid you don't want anybody else to know about.
Yeah, especially Zach.
Oh my gosh. Zach who? You just saying generic names. Peter, John.
Zach knows who he is and what he did.
Mark, Luke. Gracious. Yeah, our editor does a great job of concealing the voice. So send them in and you might find yourself here in 2025.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
All right, Blake, I'm already looking forward to 2025 and trying to decide what nefarious things I'm going to do in order to get onto the Church Gear Confessional episode.
Yeah, Toby, you're going to have to work really hard to get a confessional in here. I mean, the texts are pouring them in as we speak.
Yes.
But what are we going to do with all those confessionals, Toby?
I don't know. We have a lot of haze machines here at Church Gear, so it's giving me some ideas.
I think that people should, buy some haze machines, buy some other stuff at Church Gear, make your confessionals, and send those in. But you know what they should do even before they do that, Toby?
I don't, Blake. Are you going to tell me?
They should send this episode to every person in their life to let them know that this is the real things that techs do behind the scenes. And it's kind of a warning shot to not mess with them.
Yeah, and I think they should share my final confession of this episode, Blake. I forgot to put a memory card in the recorder.
No, Toby!